Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. The crypto market surged today. Well, most of it did. Turns out Bitcoin hasn't really much gone along for the ride, at least to this point. It's at 119,544 bucks, so up less than 1% over the last 24 hours. But look at Ethereum. It's up 8.5% over the last 24 hours. And this is important because Ethereum, historically, is what kicks off alt season when it gets blasty blast, which is what we've been seeing here. And it's at 4,565 bucks. It was over $4,600 just a bit earlier today. This is the highest it's been in years, with the all-time high being, well, here, I'll just click on it. I think it's like close to 4,900, probably a little shy of that. 4,861 bucks. Folks, this thing is going to go into Send Town, and you know the rest of the market is going to come along with it. That's why I'm excited about this. Not because I hold ETH, although I do. It's because I know what this is going to mean for XRP and everything else that I hold. And look at the market cap. The market cap for the asset class is worth over $4 trillion right now. And I think that number is going to be way higher before this cycle is over. And let me tell you this at the outset too. And I got, by the way, almost 100% of this video is going to be focused specifically on XRP. And what you're going to see is that basically every analyst under the sun is now saying that XRP is positioned in such a way that it is about to run again. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know why that's important. It's because when tons of analysts say the same or similar things, at least out of the group of analysts that I choose to follow, because I have good track records, when they start saying the same or similar thing, then that thing almost always happens. Sometimes the improbable happens, and it won't. But the vast majority of the time, when there's pretty much everybody under the sun saying that, they are indeed correct. And I'm telling you, I'm going to give you a ton of examples. They're all expecting XRP to start ripping soon, not later, but sooner rather than later. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, as I record this video, it's 5:27 p.m. Central Time, Tuesday, August 12, 2025. XRP at $3.26, 24-hour high of $3.29, just done the last, couple hours or so before I started recording this. Don't expect it to be in this range for long. It's nice to see that it did come up a bit with the rest of the market. I mean, as I'm scrolling on the front page of Live Coin Watch, you can see almost everything is up, 5 to 10%. And XRP's living in that world too. It's right in that range. You love to see it. And by the way, if you're wondering what kicked it off, it's there actually is a news event that prompted this. Here's a headline from Investopedia. S&P 500 NASDAQ composite closed at record highs as stocks surge after CPI report boosts rate cut hopes. And that's exactly what hit the crypto market too. So yeah, great to see the S&P 500 hitting a new all-time high, closing above 6,400 for the first time in history, actually. And so these are risk-on assets, so not surprising that as these risk-on assets, the stocks, increased, and I believe the Russell 2000 was up too, small-cap stocks, which means people going further out the risk curve. This is happening at the same time, of course, you're seeing alts start to surge, because there is optimism since that inflation data, CPI, came in just a little bit below expectations, that it's much more likely to have a Fed rate cut. That's how the market's responding. Whether you think that's good or bad, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm just telling you. That is what the market's responding to right now. And it was literally down to the minute. The news about the CPI data, it broke at 7:30 a.m. Central Time on the dot, and from that minute, spike. Absolute spike. Ethereum, XRP go down the list. So you'll love to see it. And it's neat to see the prices where they are, knowing that we are nowhere near euphoria. Here's another way of looking at it. Sometimes I'll show you Google Trends, which is what's on your screen right here, but it's usually with Bitcoin or XRP, sometimes both together just for comparison. Here's a search for Coinbase going back over a decade, July of 2015. And you can see what happens as you hit the peak of each market cycle. A boatload of people searching for Coinbase on the Webernets so they can jump into crypto and be unresearched idiots and throw their money at everything that has a green candle. That's what this means. And you can see for this cycle, we've had nowhere near that level. And you could argue that, okay, well, we've already had a lot of people that If they were going to search for Coinbase, they would have done it by now. And I just think, well, okay. So you think so basically that argument would be it's not going to top out the same way it did last cycle or the cycle before that. Maybe. I'm not convinced of that, though, because there's not that big a percentage of humans on the planet that even own crypto, actually. So take it for what it's worth. But I think that this is going to surge. Whether or not we see a new all-time high in search for the term Coinbase, we'll see. But either way, to me, this is just one more thing you can look at. It clearly indicates we are not in euphoria. And there's no metric sending warning signals right now that we're in euphoria and towards the end of the cycle. But when we get there, I will be screaming about it because, trust me, you don't want to be caught wrong-footed on that. Here's a post from chart analyst Dom. Bitcoin dominance just printed a new low. Bearish retest played perfect. Now we watch for 60% to stay resistance and alts remain in an expansive mode. Right, and so that's why this is so exciting to see Ethereum taking off. The price of Bitcoin, it's not like it's going down. It's up in recent days to some degree. It's that the dominance is going down. And when he posted this, it was at, 59.62%, which is pretty close to what it was when I checked about an hour to an hour and a half ago. It's going down, folks. Exactly when you would want and expect it to based on historic precedent. This is great news. Like I'm telling you, history is rhyming with itself. That's why this is exciting. So if you're excited about holding XRP and very optimistic for what's about to happen, this should be very thrilling to you. Here's another one from Dom. Ethereum dominance updated. Truly incredible stuff here. Ethereum has doubled its market dominance in just 100 days after perfectly tapping the 2020 zone. Pretty good for a dead coin, right? It's always the foolish people that'll say something's dead when it just doesn't make sense to believe that it's dead. They did the same thing last year with XRP. They're doing the same thing with Ethereum this year. No, it's not dead. It doesn't make any sense. And look at this. Almost 14% dominance. Now imagine when XRP starts running even further. The idea of XRP coming for the number 2 spot in market cap, which it has done in the past, not crazy. And you can imagine what that would mean in terms of price. This is why I keep telling you, even though I'm not going to make a price prediction, I admit I don't know what XRP price will do. I will not be surprised if indeed it ends up closer to that double-digit territory. That would not surprise me in the least. Here's one last post from Dom, or maybe I got one after this. This is the total 2 chart. So it's the entire crypto asset class excluding Bitcoin. It says we're on the brink of some exciting times. Not there yet, but very close. Total 2 has yet to breach its July high or 2021 high. Watching closely for confirmation here. Okay, so fine. He's talking about Total 2, not XRP specifically, though XRP, of course, is part of Total 2. But you're about to see a boatload of reputable chart analysts talking about XRP saying it is about to go. And they're not normally singing this song in unison, but right now they actually are. Here's the last one from Dom, XRP update. And I think the rest of the video after this is 100% XRP, by the way. It says the news pump inefficiency has been filled. And so, of course, he's referencing there the SEC Ripple news from, I think it was 5 days ago. News that they had officially dropped their appeals and they jointly filed a document to the court. Anyway, so he says, now XRP is hanging out in between a few important VWAPs, monthly all-time high and local low VWAPs, all combined near $3.20. I think we need 2 check marks here for an all-time high attempt. Number 1, flip all-time high VWAP, which is green on this chart to support. And the key level price-wise, he says, flip $3.33 to support. How many analysts over the last day or two have I highlighted indicating that crucial level of $3.33? Tons of them independently coming to the same or similar conclusion. I think one of them said $3.32, whatever, we're splitting hairs. Isn't that something? So take it for what it's worth. We're going to fly through that eventually. Here's an XRP ETH chart, and this is from, looks like the beginning of May of this year, so a few months ago. Although this post is new as of last night. This is from chart analyst Credible Crypto, one of the best in the biz so far as I'm concerned. And he says, Ethereum has been performing beautifully lately, but might be time for XRP to take charge again soon. Downside target on XRP/ETH that was shared nearly 3 months ago has finally been met. And this is exactly what I was talking about months ago. I said, do not be surprised if Ethereum starts outperforming XRP and starts gaining against the Dow because it was priced so low. It was undervalued very obviously when it got down to about $1,400. And again, it got up to $4,600 today. So it's clearly undervalued. It wasn't dead despite what the idiot stick said. And I said that several months ago. And so I warned at various points along the way, it's very possible that XRP will fall against ETH, which is what you ended up seeing. And so this is what he was projecting would happen. He was projecting that XRP would fall against ETH, and that it basically would play out something like this. He got some squiggles on the screen here. And here's how it actually played out. Check this out. So that's what he was projecting. Here's what actually happened. The concept played out. He was absolutely correct. Now, it wasn't surprising. Like, to me, that's not just conceptually, even though he's the one with the targets. I'm not a chart guy myself. But just directionally coming to the conclusion that that was going to happen, not hard. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Of course, that was probable because Ethereum needed to pick up some ground. So now that we are here, he's arguing, okay, that target was reached on the XRP ETH chart, and it matters because everything's intertwined. Markets respond, and this thing's going to blast. Looks like it's time for XRP yet again to blast and take that ground back from Ethereum on the XRP ETH pair. That's what he's getting at here. And, I mean, look, XRP has already made Bitcoin and Ethereum its little bitches this cycle, substantially outperforming, but it ain't done. By the time this cycle's over, it's going to be way more embarrassing for those XRP haters out there who are just Bitcoin and ETH maxis or fanboys. It's not going to look good for them. Not that they won't do well. I'm not saying that. I'm saying XRP is going to substantially outperform like it has been. Here's a post from chart analyst Ali Martinez. He says, it's happening. XRP targets $3.60 next. And to be clear, he's talking about in the short term, perhaps even in the coming days. Here's a post from chart analyst CW, XRP price chart. It says, XRP seems to break out of the bull flag pattern soon. The rally will resume soon. So I'm just going to try and speed through some of these, but you'll get the picture. Like, they're all saying, guys, it's about to go again. Here's the great Matsby. He says, if price can stay above $3.21, then another breakout can occur. And so we're safely above that at the moment, but he thinks that so long as that isn't breached, we're in that moment where absolutely XRP can start ripping to the upside yet again. Here's a post from chart analyst Javon Marks, XRP USD on the screen here. And this is just from this afternoon. This is just from, 2.5 hours ago, roughly. It says, based on XRP's previous bull cycle performance, and this one shaping up in an extremely similar manner, the next levels to be pushed, it's at $9.63 roughly, in another plus 188% run from here. Prices may not stop there. So he's thinking sooner than later, and getting close to double-digit price action for XRP. Look, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a matter of time before XRP starts running. I just don't pretend to know exactly when that's going to be or how high it's going to go. But if you're asking me directionally, yeah, I'm absolutely in that camp. Absolutely. I'd be shocked if that didn't happen. I'll be, if XRP doesn't rip to the upside further, I will assume it's because there was a black swan event, and I don't know. Like, markets are just in tatters, like not just XRP. Then, okay, fine. Outside of something like that, I'm thinking probably going to be pretty happy with the outcome here. Here's chart analyst Zoom. He says XRP bull flag breakout will be magnificent. So that's another analyst who says XRP is in the bull flag. He thinks it's going to break out much sooner than later. Here's a post from Crypto Michael. He says Bitcoin, ETH, and XRP will hit new highs very soon. The top isn't in until I say it is. Ooh, you cocky. He says we are just getting started. Yep, going into the final phase of this bull run, folks. Here's a post from chart analyst Galaxy. He says XRP consolidating in a descending triangle on the BTC pair. Breaking out of this will be huge. So yes, another gigantic impulse. That's exactly correct. And look at how long we've been consolidating. You know, so I guess at this point, a little over half a year. That's in line with what happened last cycle and the cycle before that. You get one major burst, and then it moves sideways for about this long, and then you get another one. So the timing would make up in that sense, too, if history's going to roughly rhyme with itself. Here's a post from chart analyst Altcoin Gordon. XRP with a huge flip of a weekly trend line. We play for the big moves. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. I'm talking about this every day, damn it. But I agree with him. I get conceptually, like, this makes sense. It's gonna go, folks. Here's a post from chart analyst Greg Crypto. He says, XRP, tight range analysis. We're currently in a tight range, and here's what to watch for. Close above $3.30. This is bullish and signals strong upward momentum. Close below $3.13, and it's bearish and indicates potential downside pressure. So those are the two key levels he's citing. He says, I believe XRP will oscillate between $3.30 and $3.13 with no clear direction until we see how Bitcoin moves. Current Bitcoin status? Well, today, Bitcoin is back to $120,000. Yeah, and it's close to that as I record. says, let's keep our fingers crossed for a new all-time high. Probability of the breakdown, well, ranging, he says 60%, so that'd be, again, that range of $3.30 to $3.13. He thinks a close above that, he puts it at about a 20% chance, and a close below it at about 20% chance. So we got to sit tight a little bit longer, but something's going to set this off. Bitcoin, and it is true, like Bitcoin is going to kick this off. Historically, it always has. This isn't going to be any different. It is just a question of when, not if, so far as I'm concerned. Like, it's going to happen. We'll only range here until suddenly one day you wake up and we're not. And everything else is heating up in a way that you would expect and want to happen, including based on historic precedent. This is fantastic. And to know that XRP is safely over $3 before we get to the euphoria, that's insanity. This is the range where XRP peaked the last time it got to run free, back in 2017 and early 2018. This is the area where it was pretty close to peaking, because it peaked at like $3.35. And here we are, and it's hanging out at that range before the part where you should expect the most upside. It couldn't be more obvious to me that what is most probable, though not certain, is face melting for XRP. That's what I'm looking forward to. I think it's coming, folks. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.